The future of the world depends on the health of the family. Especially in Africa, the family is the pillar on which the structure of society rests. This pillar is strained today by class differences and social contrasts, by extreme poverty, predatory economics and political instability. These factors result from wars, disease, high levels of mortality, especially among women and children. Industrialized nations enrich themselves at the expense of this continent and, often under false pretenses of liberalization and health care, manipulate and devastate this basic and most precious structure, the family.
When we look at the everyday life of an African family, we see the search for food, or for a few cents or so, that they and their children can survive.
If you find someone living on $1 per day, it is a pity, because we know that back in the developed world, no one can live on $1 per day. So this is the situation in which Africans, majority of Africans, find themselves. And the only way to make life meaningful is to ensure that we work seriously at reducing poverty.
When we speak about the poverty in Africa, we have to take into consideration several factors. For sure, it is not the problem of overpopulation. There is a lot of free space here. I would even say that the population is not big enough. The problem which exists, really, is rather a lack of education. There are few intellectuals in Africa, and if they speak their minds, you should see how they are treated. Their knowledge is ignored. So when we speak about the poverty and look for the root causes, we should not limit ourselves only to overpopulation.
There are millions of dollars spent for production of pills, millions of dollars used to produce condom. And here the people here are dying of poverty, dying of simple malaria that you can just take a 20 naira chloroquine and you are off it. It's not up to the costs of one condom to treat malaria in Africa. But where is the drug? Where are the funds for even people?
The numerous wars have caused the disappearance of proper families, and the few families that have survived have been subdued by a negative influence. The family does not play its role anymore. We see children who don't live with their parents. We can see parents who, as a matter of fact, are members of the family, but they do not fulfill their role as parents. We see children of the streets. We see children who watch the violence and abuse that their parents receive. The family as we know it has disappeared.
La famille comme telle est en train de disparaître.
Après la guerre aussi, il y a une réalité, les familles maintenant se composent non seulement des couples et des enfants, il y a
The reality after a war is that families do not consist only of marriages and children.
nous avons mis sur pied
There are families of widows, There are so many widows that we have recently established commissions offering pastoral ministry among widows.
Trouver des fonds dans les organismes d'aide. Récemment, des amis.
The diocese helps them to find funds from charity organizations. Not so long ago, some friends from Germany gave them the first heads of cattle to fill their barns. There is also a group running a chain of tailoring shops, a handyman's workshop, so they don't feel isolated, but support the family and help with financial problems.
Économique et familiale.
Some of us have lost our men because of natural causes, whilst others lost their husbands during the 1994 war. We have daughter, mothers who never got married. These are women touched by fate, who live in their parents' homes. We also have women whose husbands are imprisoned. I, for example, adopted a child, whom I breastfed myself. I don't know the child's family or its parents. The child is presently a third-year primary school student. Our life is difficult because we have everything ourselves, and educating our children has become very expensive, whilst our association no longer receives any state aid. We have managed to mobilize a group of women volunteers who presently look after women AIDS victims in our group. We have a group of special volunteers dedicated to looking after these orphans. Do you have parents?
No,
Who do you live with?
with my grandmother.
Do you love her?
Yes.
Do you want anything? What would you like?
What I would like is a writing set. When I go to school, I have nothing.
Who do you want to be?
My country's president.
What makes you happy in life? What would you like? I would like very much to study, learn a lot, and love God.
Je pense que le phénomène de guerre a fait changer les choses.
I think that the phenomenon of war has changed various things. There are a great many children on the streets. That is, children whose parents allowed them to be born but abandoned them for the entire day when they try to find work, to save some money and make their living. Or it also happens that parents have abandoned their children in the streets and they stay there raising each other. Abandoning children leads to increasing sexual promiscuity and rapes, extremely violent rapes. We have a population here which has found itself in a situation of being abandoned and badly damaged. I think that one of the church's roles, and what we want to do, is to find a means to get the children off the streets.
Trouver des moyens pour sortir ces enfants de la rue.
Avec les enfants, nous avons un projet de...
Our project is helping orphans. After the genocide, we mothers, especially Catholic mothers, felt deeply that we should not only count on our families, but we should also look further at the orphans who are so numerous. Children orphaned because of genocide, AIDS, and other diseases. We have set up an association. Thanks to it, if we had an orphan in our family, we are also able to support the child and children in other families.
Ces femmes, ces veuves, le premier problème qu'ils ont, c'est de trouver des
The first problem these women have is getting money and helping their children grow to the age when they will be able to support themselves. Therefore, these women, aided by humanitarian organizations, try to raise children. Otherwise, the children from these families will usually become what we call children of the streets.
sortent des enfants qu'on appelle des enfants de la rue.
140 enfants.
We take care of 140 orphans here. They are open to us. Even when a problem occurs, they come and tell us, here is a problem. Even if they behave badly at school, we need to go there and help them out. Like a mum who is always ready to go and be on the side of her children.
These days, there are so many things that are against the family. The wind is too much. And the wind that comes from Europe and America, they touch our people too much.
The African continent is at the heart of a fierce battle for the family. A model promoting a revolution in sexual behavior has been applied without any regard to the tragic consequences that it brings, and that developed countries themselves continue to bear. Family ties between husband and wife, parents and their children are broken. A new mentality takes over among women, men and young people, exploited by international organizations instilling a culture of death through the promotion of contraceptives, abortion and free love with no responsibility, all in the name of a supposed concern for population control or the rights of women.
A very aggressive population growth control policy has been in force in developing countries from the 1960s and 1970s. It is about changing people's mentality. I believe that these ideas are the true fruit of the Cultural Revolution in the West, at the same time being the West's apostasy. It simply fits into a certain logic of the Western Cultural Revolution, loss of faith, and then people believe that they are doing good. They believe that contraception and abortion are the blessings of civilization. They want to change Africans into Western-like citizens who live according to a layman's mentality. This is the process of a global secularization. So we are thrown into a void where cultural mutations, everything that was acquired, destroys society. First of all, it destroys the family, with everything that is popularized among the young, that is freedom, the right to do anything. They stop listening to anyone, even their parents. If we reach for the book of Genesis, we will see that the three conditions which render humans susceptible to sin are power, knowledge, and pleasure without God. These three tendencies are the root of global political norms imposed on countries. You will be as gods, the liberalization of women and children. A wife does not need her husband. A child does not need its parents. Procreation, health, and gender are intensely focused on knowledge. You have to know your sexuality. There is no secret anymore. Everything becomes an object of science. Finally, the quest for pleasure, looking for pleasure with no God, at any price. This is the mystery of evil.
I lack the words to express the gravity of the AIDS epidemic. Genocide, horror, tragedy. If you just visit any African hospital to see people dying in conditions that they look like they've come out of a concentration camp.
When people become infected by the HIV/AIDS virus, they are often not diagnosed in good time, preferring to seek help, not from national health services, but rather from so-called herbal medicine men, witch doctors. And when they die, then, even then, HIV/AIDS might not always be cited as the reason for their demise.
There are many people who are affected. If you people are able to say yes, they are. Many are afraid because of the stigma. Oh, that person is affected by HIV/AIDS. He or she is ostracized. That in itself can kill people quicker.
Oftentimes you will see some of the ones who, the old people who come in, drop in at the daycare center are with a child. Well, it isn't their child. It's probably their daughter or son's child, the daughter or son having died, and now the old person is looking after them. So there's really no sector of society that is immune from AIDS. It penetrates everyone, and it has destroyed everybody's life in many ways, because these old people shouldn't have the responsibility of looking after a little child.
Many international organizations working on the African continent promote the use of contraceptives as a means of preventing the spread of the HIV virus, even though during the last 20 years some African countries have seen the AIDS epidemic spread ever more widely.
It's very sad and it's very tragic. Look at the epidemic, 20 years into the distribution of condoms, and what has it brought? Nothing. It really has not changed the face of the epidemic.
Since the time when condoms have been distributed, each year the percentage of the HIV infected has been increasing, and the problem is continuously growing and growing. If condoms were a solution to AIDS, we should be seeing a decrease in the figures, not increase. There wouldn't be the dying or the infected.
If we don't want AIDS to spread, we need to educate people. But it is not educating to tell them, use a condom and AIDS won't get you. It is a mistake even from a medical point of view, because condoms may not be a barrier against HIV.
We've also asked people who are very, very strong about condoms, if they were going to have sex, beautiful woman, beautiful man there, they've agreed to have sex with you, and right before you get into bed they say, just by the way, I do have HIV, but I don't worry, I have a condom. Would you have sex with them? And invariably the people say no, I wouldn't.
Ce préservatif n'a en rien.
Condoms did in no way decrease the illness, did not weaken AIDS, the progress of AIDS. On the contrary, they are an invitation for the most unbridled licentiousness.
À l'école primaire, dans toutes les écoles du Congo-Kinshasa.
In primary school, in all schools in Congo-Kinshasa, and it is the case everywhere, condoms are handed out. The parents try to protest. What were our children given? It is a form of Western totalitarianism against the families who are already weakened in all possible ways, through war, disease, famine, and on top of it all, the hearts and souls of those who are the most precious to them, their children, are being damaged.
De ceux qu'ils ont de plus cher, c'est-à-dire leurs enfants.
The propaganda of condoms is bringing us death. Death to the individual, death to the person, death to society. Almost nothing is forbidden in Africa. A culture with no prohibitions is a dying culture.
Uganda is the only country to have achieved success in its fight with AIDS, above all by not distributing contraceptives. In the late 1980s, a practical campaign was devised to prevent the spread of HIV. It was recognized that people who had sex with more than one regular partner drove population-wide AIDS epidemics in Africa. Therefore, some faith-based organizations urged people to be faithful. The campaign was called AB, for abstinence and be faithful. The proportion of Ugandans infected with HIV plunged from 21% in 1991 to 6.2% in 2008.
When this question of condoms came about, we had pressure from many sources. They said we are not promoting the right thing. People are going to die. People cannot look after themselves. People cannot abstain. The youth cannot wait until marriage. This is a different generation. We are not on the ground, but we said we are on the ground. You know, the truth always stands out as light. We are not giving 1 day's solution or 2 months solution. Our message was no to condoms. Our message was abstinence, faithfulness. But today, even those forces that were against us, now they believe that we were right.
In an interview with the Washington Post, the co-chair of Uganda's National AIDS Prevention Committee, Sam L. Ruteikara, stated, "International AIDS experts claimed that we were wrong to try to limit people's sexual freedom. Worse, they had the financial power to force their casual sex agendas upon us." In the fight against AIDS, profiteering has trumped prevention. AIDS is no longer simply a disease. It has become a multi-billion-dollar industry. The effective HIV prevention methods, such as urging Africans to stick to one partner, don't qualify for lucrative universal access status. The successful AB campaign cost just 29 cents per person each year.
What we advise people is marital fidelity and abstinence for young people. We of course have problems because great emphasis is placed on the preventative benefits of using contraceptives. We nevertheless attract ever more supporters who join us, for example, Muslims, and from different Christian groups. By changing the attitudes and behavior, we help young people to first of all find the meaning of love, the meaning of involvement, the meaning of fertility and sexual difference. In this way, to find all that might serve as basic knowledge that will allow them to conduct their lives in purity and learn to prepare for true love.
I learned how HIV is spread, and I learned how HIV is controlled by abstaining. I learned that a condom is not 100% perfect. Those are what I learned.
Studies in Kenya, and even some in Uganda, showed that the prevalence rate has gone down among young people, not so much because of condoms, but because young people are beginning to delay immediate sexual gratification. We are beginning to find that even young people in university are abstaining. And there's a whole concept of secondary virginity, which young people are practicing. We just finished a program training of facilitators where a number of young people were present. And one of the questions they were sharing was their own struggle with abstinence. And I was so impressed that in that room, almost 75% of young people were abstaining.
People are realizing that the abstinence and faithfulness and the faith-based, value-based programs are getting results, and therefore people are more prepared to support that type of work now.
Abstinence is best for my life because it protects me from getting the HIV virus. And of course, it also, when you abstain and you know that you're a virgin, you feel proud of yourself. You know that I kept my purity, and I'll always be that until I find that rightful person that I'm going to spend my life with.
First of all, it's like our culture to abstain. It feels nice. It's like a best present you can give your husband when you marry him. And second of all, it prevents you from very many diseases, sexually transmitted diseases.
We talk a lot about finding a vaccine or a cure for AIDS, but there is a vaccine. And for me, that vaccine is a return to God's law and the promotion of abstinence and faithfulness. I have seen so many people being able to change lifestyles for the better, and so many youth making those promises to wait until marriage, that would give me hope that we will win the battle against AIDS.
In our environment, in our society, abortion was unthought of, because 2 generations ago, 1 generation ago, even in the 1980s, there were no cases of abortion. In many African cultures, virginity used to be an indispensable condition to get married. If a maiden got pregnant, she was killed. If a man got married and he found out that his fiancée was not a virgin, he immediately sent her back to her house. This was a disgrace for the whole family. In 2003, African countries, members of the African Union, adopted the Maputo Protocol on Women's Rights in Africa. Article 14C of this protocol contains a clause allowing abortion under medical supervision, and it is one of the most liberal laws in the world. Of course, it is not the African people who want this, because for most of them, abortion is still a scandal, as they have a great sense of life and family. Powerful international lobbyists imposed this law. I will not give the names of the organizations, but we know them. Human rights organizations, family planning organizations, UN organizations that want the right of abortion to become an international law. Against the will of the Africans, Africa is becoming a pioneer in popularizing the right of abortion as an international law. The customs are currently changing. That is, there is a need to give condoms to young people. They feel they can make use of their sexuality, regardless of the place, the way, but still from a cultural point of view, sex should be used to conceive a child. The ideology of death is something that derides life. It shows that if you are looking for something, you will have it, even if you need to kill in order to get it.
Il faut l'avoir.
Il y a beaucoup d'avortements et des avortements qui sont faits.
There are numerous abortion procedures carried out. They are often performed in a barbaric way, very simple, primitive, and they lead to the death of a certain number of young women due to complications or loss of blood.
Par métrorragie ou par septicémie.
Młode kobiety, które nie są jeszcze mężatkami.
Unmarried young girls and women sometimes choose abortion, at times even with their parents' approval, though more often than not, they decide by themselves. It does happen that married women who find themselves with an unwanted pregnancy choose abortion and then regret it, because complications sometimes develop in subsequent wanted pregnancies.
Western civilization offers abortion and contraceptives as a means of controlling population growth. Meanwhile, nobody anywhere provides any information on the harmful side effects of these birth control methods.
There are many international organizations out there, like the Bill Gates, the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, who are interested in reducing the population of Africans. For whatever reason, I don't know. But this is their desire. And so they stop at nothing. They are ready to vote billions of dollars in order to carry out this agenda. They should be told that these unnatural family planning methods bring about cancer and other ailments. These are things that they don't talk about. They don't talk about the side effects.
There are women who have contraceptives implanted, or the intrauterine device is offered to them. They are given Depo-Provera, a contraceptive injection, which is most destructive for women, but they have this imposed upon them and are shown that it is simple, good for them and can help their families. It is a great shame because the truth is not told about all this.
The common problem with most women who are on some of the artificial methods, especially the intrauterine device, is a pelvic inflammatory disease. The woman is able to have some years without a child, but it's a years of agony for her.
These medications can also cause giving birth to a disabled or retarded child.
Artificial methods are ruining our health. For example, contraceptives influence the natural body functions. When we use the pill or injections, it is difficult to conceive later.
My closest friends and other acquaintances have confided in me that they use the intrauterine device. One of them has told me that she often gets backaches and doesn't feel well generally. The women are destroyed, the family is destroyed, and even children are destroyed. And when you trace the reasons, you will find it is because they were taking contraceptives just before pregnancy. Mothers give birth to deformed children, whose heads are not developed well and have water inside it. They give birth to children without arms, legs, or a nose, or a badly developed one, without eyes. There are so many cases like this.
Many women are blackmailed into having an abortion. They are offered work, food or medicines for using contraceptives.
The society is poor, and it needs help to overcome poverty. In order to help the society overcome poverty, it is made clear to a woman who has many children that if she continues to have more children, it will be difficult for her to cope with it and provide for her and her children. She is told, "We will give you work for the children's benefit, a small business of your own. We will give you the venture capital, but to get it, you need to agree to stop having children." And that is what the contraceptives are for. The women are given the promised funds together with the pills. If she uses the contraceptives, she can use the money for developing her business so her family can survive. This means that this woman's conscience is bought with that money. This is happening in the villages. Just yesterday, you would not be able to find this many women who would even think about contraception. But today, because food is put next to the pill, and she is hungry, she thinks to herself, "I will take the food because they give it to me, so I will take the pill as well." This is a mass usage of contraceptives, and they are used in a way which is very aggressive, because the women are forced to make that choice. They are told that their right to medical treatment will be taken away until an artificial family planning method or contraception is chosen for them. There is a whole mechanism of distorted education to which women, who are often not well educated, are subdued, and it is done in such a manner that they can't see it is bad. Unfortunately, the Western way of thinking about contraception spreads. In reality, though, it is contradictory to African culture and mentality.
Forcing women to take oral contraceptives is not the only way of manipulating people in the name of limiting the natural birth rate. In some African countries, women are sterilized without their knowledge.
En Angola, il y avait un hôpital.
In Angola, there was a hospital known for performing sterilization. These procedures were performed after giving birth, during a systematically performed caesarean section. In another big African country, a nun was threatened with being sacked if she started talking about what was happening in the hospital. It is obvious that as soon as an individualistic personality gives in to globalization, the family is destroyed. When a woman is taught to fight for her rights, that is, the right to govern her body, the right to the so-called safe abortion, the right to contraception applied without the husband's knowledge, this damages the ontological unity of man and woman.
Wars and the HIV virus are not the only reasons why families suffer a breakdown and annihilation. By promoting condoms, contraceptives and abortion, the West has led to a radical change in behavior and destruction of the natural and traditional attitude towards human life amongst Africans, a continent that for centuries regarded virginity, fertility and therefore children as the greatest of treasures, today seems to consider these a curse.
The family is really in trouble. We feel it. Poverty should not be used as a weapon to destroy a family. If we want to fight poverty, the family needs to be helped to get back on its feet, instead of humiliating it. As we are going through this, we are humiliating the family to fight poverty, but later we feel that it is a fight against poor families. We need them to disappear so the others can have an easier life. This is not good, and this will not give us a better future. We need to return to these ideas, the basic values of fatherhood and motherhood, because this is what we are in the first place. First, we are a mother, a father, a daughter, a husband. The new global language has completely covered words such as father, mother, brother, husband. These words were replaced with other words. Even in the Congo, they are trying to change the Ministry of the Family to the Ministry of Gender. People don't know what this means, but those who are behind the Beijing conference know exactly what they want to achieve.
In spite of sophisticated mass propaganda targeted against the family and traditional values, efforts are being undertaken in Africa aimed at restoring and protecting the family. The Family Action Federation spares no effort in organising education meetings and lectures for women and whole families.
To properly introduce responsible fatherhood and motherhood, it is necessary to make people realise that being a mother and a father is possible, and that in His plan, God has provided us with all the possibilities necessary for conscious procreation to become His responsible co-workers.
Pendant cette formation, On essaye de montrer que la sexualité, du moins l'acte sexuel en tant que tel, n'est qu'une des harmoniques de la...
During the process of formation, we try to show that sexuality, or at least the sexual act itself, is a part of a harmony in the life of those who are in love, and that there are many elements to develop, especially tenderness. Reducing sexuality to the sexual act itself leads to treating a human being as someone who is more emotional than responsible and willful. Our perspective is to show people what human sexuality really is when sexual life becomes a campaign for the benefit of human life, marriage and family.
Sexualité et une vie sexuelle sont pour la promotion de l'homme, du couple et de la famille.
Natural family planning, it's the best alternative. Mainly, the challenge is that it's for both the wife and the husband, rather than in other methods. In other methods, it's only the woman to suffer the consequences, and the husband is just free. But now we face the challenge together.
Il est indispensable que d'aider.
It is indispensable to help couples a lot, especially men, to grasp and sufficiently understand the fact that God does not demand of us the producing of offspring in an uncontrolled manner, but that a human being is a creature who loves, is free and responsible. Conceiving a life is burdened with the highest responsibility, and it is at the moment of the act of giving life that people must use their most important human qualities, such as intelligence, love, freedom, and responsibility.
L'intelligence, l'amour, la liberté et la responsabilité.
When I then went through this course, I then realized that some of the pills even actually cause abortion. So what it means is that couples are maybe every month committing murder, unconsciously, not really realizing that this is what they are doing. And it's really unfortunate.
Since we got to know about the natural method, the relationship became a lot better. The natural family planning method works not only just for child spacing, it also helps you to identify the fertility. Like some women, some couples that have been having problems of fertility, they've not been able to have children. I know 1 or 2 of them have become pregnant. I have had children by learning the method, the natural method. I think it is something that everybody needs to know. Everybody needs to know. It is safe, it is healthy, it is natural, given by God Himself.
Nous essayerons d'aider.
We are trying to help couples to truly live in marital faithfulness and marital love in a way which would be effective. As a result of this, couples become aware of the lies disseminated by modern culture.
Qui se répandent dans la culture moderne. La politique gouvernementale et la politique de la population.
The governmental policy and social policy saw this initiative as a kind of sabotage against, say, social policy, so it was really difficult. But when we started really honest teaching about natural birth regulation, the government finally became convinced about the feasibility and even effectiveness of natural methods. During this time, we were accepted, and the results of the natural birth regulation program were even highly appreciated.
Les résultats du programme de régulation naturelle des naissances. L'action familiale
the pro-family action is not enough. I think that in order to save the African family, we need to really launch powerful actions and work in different directions so the family ministry could be really effective.
Mise en place et soit effective.
On avait organisé une rencontre.
We have organized in Angola a meeting for married people from Mozambique and Angola. There was a moment when a woman, not in her youngest years, said, "How is it that we hear this for the first time? How is it that the church has never taught us that?" We can see that this teaching can move hearts very deeply. And it does move hearts so deeply that we have decided to send 1 or 2 priests to the meetings with these families. Because often, those who participate in these seminars experience a need to sum up their lives and confess, or at least talk to a priest.
Je vois beaucoup de personnes qui sont...
The Emmanuel community organized a session for families last month. Plenty of people came. Couples arrived from all over Rwanda. In order to organize such a session, support is necessary. If your income is lower than $2, you cannot take for granted the right to participate in a session in Kigali. If you arrive from the other side of Rwanda, we are really poor, and it is pitiful.
De l'autre bout du Rwanda. On est vraiment démunis et c'est regrettable.
Alors, les Africains ont cette merveilleuse qualité de faire confiance.
Africans have this wonderful feature that they easily trust others, because another person is not a citizen. The other is a brother or a sister. They are not as we are in the West, contaminated with cynicism, suspiciousness, and distrust. Today, they may become victims of social activists who use techniques imitating this brotherhood, who are very friendly, very gentle, very subtle, but hide poison. It is necessary that Africans know that in order to save their African soul, but also as a responsibility to humanity, because if Africa loses its soul, the whole of humanity will become poorer. It is necessary that Africans learn to be more critical, more analytical, towards what is now offered to them from the West, with such power, with so much money which can destroy their culture.
Si puissants qui risquent de détruire leur culture.
Pour qu'une famille tienne la route, il faut que les parents.
Parents must receive the teachings of the Church so that the family does not get lost. Personally, I have to say that when I see how African society receives the Church's teachings about the family, I am deeply convinced that these received blessings will return to us in a mysterious way, like a boomerang, to our Western societies that are so damaged in this aspect.
The danger which we see is that there are attempts to remove God from life. The sense of the sacrum is very strong in African societies. I have the impression that the further we go, the more we study, the richer we become in the material sense, the more distant we become from God. This is when we stop being faithful to our wives. We start to look for pleasure. This is when AIDS may appear and destroy the family. Misunderstandings may appear within the family. God is the arbitrator of our families. If we build on Him, we can be certain that our family will never tremble. This is our faith.
Ne sera jamais ébranlé. C'est notre foi.